Both of these Wranglers have 392 cubic inch V8s under the hood. This one from the factory and this one in the aftermarket. Let's talk about it. At this point, most people are familiar with the V8 option that you can get in the Jeep Wrangler direct from the factory. You can now get it in a Rubicon edition, the Willys edition, and the Moab. This thing makes 470 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. It's a pretty expensive option, but what you might not know is this option's been around for a good bit, and if you're a Jeep Wrangler JK owner and you had about 28 grand to spare, it was a really good option. Now, as long as the Wrangler's been around, people have been swapping in V8s, and the JK is no exception to that. But early on, one of the first and main players in that business was American Expedition Vehicles. They were kind of the go-to. The first one they offered was the 5.7, and later you were able to get the 6.4 liter, and that's what this has under the hood. Now this is a full AEV conversion, and unfortunately you can't get these anymore. This was actually installed by Ruby Truck. Some of these AEV swaps were actually done at AEV. This is basically an AEV trimmed out JK, and I'll go over some of the other mods and things like that here shortly, but Ruby Trucks here in North Carolina actually did this V8 swap, and it's pretty seamless. It's a little bit messier under the hood on something like this because A, it wasn't designed to have a V8 from the factory, and B, this does have a lot of aftermarket wares. It's got the painless, trail rocker system. It's got a Genesis dual battery setup. The main thing is, early on when they were doing V8s on JKs, I can attest from being on trail rides, they didn't quite have it perfectly figured out. Overheating was definitely a thing, but as these swaps got a little bit more fine-tuned and refined, that basically went away. This Jeep actually belongs to my buddy Josh. He actually picked it up secondhand, and it's a really good way if you want to get a V8 Jeep to get one at a really good value because, like I say, these conversions are pretty expensive, and if you're looking for one and you do want to do a 392 swap, at this point, your go-to is probably America's Most Wanted 4x4, so you're still going to be sitting in that thing for about $30,000 for a swap, which if you're looking for a clean JK that is just stock, you're going to be in that for 20 grand. It's still probably cheaper to do a Hemi swap JK than it is to buy a brand new 392, but there are some pros and cons to that. And one of the interesting things about this V8 conversion, the numbers that they basically promote when they had this originally was it would have 470 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, just like the stock 392 in the JL, but these bolt up to the 5-speed automatic. It's the NAG1, NAG1 as it's often called, and it's a really robust automatic, and it's absolutely fine with running V8 power. And so that means you can do the engine swap, you can keep your same transmission, you can keep your same transfer case. So there are a lot of big advantages. The problem with the 5-speed is compared to the 8-speed with having those additional overdrive gears, it's not as versatile. So you're not going to get as low of a first gear, which is really impactful not only for launching speed, but for crawling. And those overdrive gears really make a difference because if you go too high numerically differential-wise on something like this JK, it's really going to rev high on the interstate. Whereas you can get away with a little bit more differential gearing with the newer 392 because of that 8-speed auto. Now this one does have an aftermarket radiator. He had told me that the previous owner had an issue with the original engine swap radiator cracking, which could have just been a result from off-roading and things like that. But beyond that, no real issues. This thing doesn't overheat, makes tons of power. There are some mods that will be removed eventually by the new owner, Josh. He really likes the AEV hood, but he's not really much of a snorkel guy. And this thing does have a few, let's call overland mods that I think are great, but it's not really his style. He's more of a rock crawler. So let's get into all the mods. Now, starting up front, this thing does have an aftermarket AEV bumper. Like I mentioned earlier, it does have a lot of AEV wares on it. So this is their full bull bar. It does have the IPF lights on it. It is running a Warren 9.5 CTI winch. It's got a factor of 55 thimble on it. So definitely good recovery gear. Absolutely nothing wrong with this bumper. I know some people like stubbies. Full width for this Jeep has been perfectly fine. It does have an aftermarket Ultimate 44 front housing, 410 differential gears, an Eaton E-locker. It's got chromoly axle shafts on it. It does have the drag link flip on it, so it steers a little bit better. The track bar has been raised up. The factory rear Dana 44 still remains, and it does have a TrueTrack limited slip differential. There are also skid plates for the TerraFlex shock, so when this thing does go off-road, it won't damage those as easily. In terms of suspension, it does have the AEV 3.5-inch lift coils. It does have the geometry correction brackets. It's using TerraFlex adjustable control arms with those brackets. It's got the Falcon TerraFlex adjustable shocks, and it has JKS sway bar disconnects. For tires and wheels, it does have a 35 by 1250 R17 Nitto Ridge Grappler. This is a hybrid terrain tire, so it's kind of in between a mud terrain and an all-terrain. For his needs in this Jeep, this is really a fantastic tire because it's really durable enough to go off-road. It's got enough spacing, but for him and his family to drive it every day, it's a really good option. It is mounted on a 17-inch AEV Pintler wheel. I love the look of this wheel. It reminds me of those old like Ferrari 308 wheels, full-on Magnum PI. The brakes have also been upgraded. It's got a full TerraFlex brake kit. Out back, it does have the AEV tire carrier and full bumper system. It does have a pressurized water system on it that you can hook up right here at the back bumper. So very much so set up for camping. It's a more overland based rig. Josh is a little bit more of a rock crawler, so I'll be interested to see what kind of stuff stays and what goes. Really quality bumpers. If you haven't really seen like AEV stuff up close, it's like OE level quality in its fit and finish. The rear tail lights are just like the front lights in that they come from JW Speaker. The roof rack on top comes from Rhino Rack, and it's actually one that's reinforced on the inside. It's got their backbone system, so you can actually put a rooftop tent up here if you want. So definitely a overlander's checklist right here. Inside, you've got the prep table, you've got storage up here. You can kind of see that backbone system in these fishbone containers on either side, so you can definitely carry a lot of gear. These are really ideal for being able to carry all of your gear and actually have it stored pretty nicely. Now the inside of this thing is pretty nice. It's got aftermarket leather seat covers, carbon fiber bits everywhere, and it's got this really cool, I think it's called carburetor dash layout. Sorry if I said that wrong, but it's a really neat digital dash that replaces the factory JK dash. It also has this really nice Alpine head unit. So you've got a lot of things that bring this thing up to really modern standards, and kind of brings me to the point that if you are looking for and you really want a 392 Wrangler, the new Willys that just came out, I think it's the cheapest that they've been. I think they're like 69 grand. And if you want a brand new 392, that absolutely makes sense in my mind if you're just looking to have a V8 Wrangler. To find one of these used, you're still in like the $30,000 to $45,000 range. That's realistic for a V8 swap JK. But a clean JK in general is still going in the mid-20s. So you're still spending a lot less money to have a V8 swap Jeep JK than you are a brand new 392 Wrangler. From a purely practical standpoint, probably the best feature on this Jeep are the retractable steps. However, Josh is probably going to be swapping those out for something a little bit more off-road oriented. These steps come from AMP Research. Fantastic to be able to get in and out of your vehicle, just not really ideal if you're going to be dragging across rocks. Now, it's also worth noting that it does have a full onboard air system using an ARB air compressor. It's got a sub underneath this driver's seat. Everything, the carpet has been pulled out, it all has Dynamat, and it does have aftermarket headliners too to help quiet it down a bit. At the end of the day, if you're looking for a 392 Wrangler, the fact that you can find them in the aftermarket and brand new is pretty incredible. And in terms of value, it's really hard to beat. This one has a few mods that Josh doesn't necessarily care for, but it's going to be a lot cheaper still to buy one turnkey and modify it out. Now, it is worth noting, and sorry for the road noise, what I'm actually doing up here today, and that is starting the, I don't want to call it a rehash, but it needs a little bit of love on my Gladiator. If you don't know, I actually broke the front locker in this thing, so the Eaton E-locker has to be replaced. I've got a set of 42s for it that's going on, and out back I'm finally breaking down and doing something about the fact that I don't have a rear sway bar. So lots of good things coming to this. I'll be documenting all this for the channel, so if you like all this stuff, please like, subscribe, do all that good jazz. If you want to see some stuff I'm working on behind the scenes, you can always check me out at all social media at Ollie Mansour Editor. Just look for that little logo.